All right, well, let's go ahead and get started this morning. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Ben, for agreeing to do this presentation today. Just from a logistics standpoint, go ahead and mute your microphones if you haven't already. If you want to turn off your video to same bandwidth, that's always good. And if you would open the chat window inside Zoom, that's how we're going to be doing questions. So feel free to type a question in. And if you just want to ask Ben a question, if it's fairly complex, just say, hey, I've got a question I want to ask in the chat room, and Ben can stop and let you in, and you can unmute your mic and ask your question. So, and a recording of this will be available after the fact. I'm guessing we'll have this up and published before the end of the week. So with that, Ben, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Great, Mike, thanks, appreciate it. And I did take over, do you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, thanks, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity to give a little presentation about LenderClose and how we've been keeping things on track during the pandemic, and really the idea of moving to a remote sales environment, which has been a little bit different than we've done in the past. So again, thanks for the opportunity to chat about this, and thanks to everybody on the line for joining us. Appreciate you being curious about LenderClose and what we have going on here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to meet your expectations, but hopefully there'll be one or two things maybe you can take away and utilize in your own organizations. My goal today is to, have some fun, to, share some good nuggets about what we have going on here, and then have some fun along the way. Hopefully there will be some questions, so please use the chat feature. Type your questions in there as we go along, and we'll leave some time at the end to make sure that we can get into those questions, and hopefully I can give some answers, or at least talk around maybe what a potential answer could be. So my agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about LenderClose. We're going to talk about some general sales philosophies that I have and have utilized really over my career, and more specifically while at LenderClose. We'll talk a little bit about the shift to remote sales, and then we'll also talk about tools. This was one where, Mike had asked to have us show the tools and talk about how we utilize them, and I definitely want to talk about that, but I have a problem with drilling way too into the details too quickly. So I'm going to try to keep it really high level in terms of the tools that we use. Also remember, a tool is just a tool and only as good as the person wielding it. These tools have worked really well for LenderClose, but just because we utilize them doesn't mean it's the right thing for everybody. And then we'll wrap up with what I'm calling a super send-off, send you guys all off to be able to do it and conquer the mountains that you have in front of you there too. Okay, there's a little fox on my screen. Why is there a fox on my screen? A couple of weeks ago, I went on a really long run from West Des Moines all the way to Principal Park and then back to West Des Moines. And along the way, it just was kind of crazy how much wildlife was out there. And at one point, a fox ran out in front of me about 3 feet. And so I was working on this presentation. I thought, you know what, Mr. Fox is going to be our little mascot. So you may see him show up from time to time. I thought he was kind of funny. But I guess you may not. So we'll just have to see. So diving right in, LenderClose. What is LenderClose? Well, we empower credit unions and community banks to lend money fast. We specialize in the real estate lending process, and we help people gather together all of the things they need in order to originate a mortgage loan or a real estate loan. And put it in one place so it's really easy to manage and they're able to move very, very quickly. Our main focus is speed, efficiency, and borrower experience. So if you think about how long it takes to originate a mortgage loan or home equity line of credit or a second mortgage, we believe that you can walk into a bank or a credit union and get a $10,000 loan that same day. But if you ask for a $10,000 loan with your home as security, that process can take weeks. And it's still a $10,000 loan, and one of them is using your home as collateral and the other is unsecured. So that just in and of itself seems like a broken process to us. So we empower our partners to use the tools to help them go fast, to be extremely efficient with the staff and resources that they have, and provide their borrowers an experience that's second to none. And as you guys know, the world is changing around us very, very quickly, and digital and online experiences are really what the future is. And so banks and credit unions really have to do a great job of moving in that direction. And outside of some of the largest banks in the country, most don't have a research and development budget to be able to go and create these tools. And so we really look at ourselves as the research and development arm for community banks and credit unions. We bring them the products they need to keep up with fintechs, as well as the large banks. And we believe we can show them a path into the future of how they can still be relevant to their members and borrowers and customers. And finally, we think it's important that we maintain community lending, because a person who lives in your community and understands what you're going through is much more likely to give you the opportunity that you need. And we think it's important that you keep people focused. A people-focused mindset as a financial institution is trying to grow and expand. So those are our three core values. How have we grown? LenderClose really launched at the end of 2017, beginning 2018. It did exist in a form prior to that. Omar Jordan, our founder, had a couple of other businesses, sold them all in January of 18. I was able to join in February of 2018, and you can see we've really gone on a nice growth path ever since that point in time. Also, we've expanded. Hawaii is not on that map, but we have partners in Hawaii and Maine and everywhere in between. We also have financial institutions that are too big to fail, as well as some really small ones that just have one branch. So it's been really cool to see how our product can scale up in terms of the size of partner that we work with, and also scale down to the smaller ones, and everybody is able to get value from the technology platform that we've created. And it's not just regionally based, it's all across the country as well. A good example of the type of thing that we look at to try to break that has happened recently is the idea of remote online notarization. So about 1.5 years ago, I walked into Omar's office, and he was pulling his hair out, which, by the way, is a joke. If you know Omar, he doesn't have any hair. But Omar was in his office. We were trying to get a notary to show up at a loan closing in Orange City. And for whatever reason, we were having a hard time getting there. Eventually, we had somebody drive from Sioux City to Orange City. And we started talking, in Virginia, they had passed a remote online notarization law where you don't have to go and stand in front of a notary in order to get a document notarized. And so we thought, well, what would it take to get a bill passed or a law changed in Iowa for us to do that? And we didn't know the answer, but we knew a bunch of lobbyists, so we started calling our friends. And the next thing you know, we had a big coalition of people who were willing to help move this bill forward. So Omar and I spoke in front of a Senate subcommittee, a House subcommittee. We were very involved in the whole process, which eventually became law. And then recently with the coronavirus, the governor moved forward. It was supposed to launch in Iowa in July, but we've been able to do remote online notarization since April. And it's been fun being a leader here. And we did sign the first mortgage loan using remote online notarization in April in the state's history, which was really cool. And if you think about, okay, why is this important? If you think about borrowing money and a slow step in the process, if you want to go sign a mortgage loan, you're either doing it after hours or you've got to take time off of work. So you go in, you have to drive there, you have to sign everything. It's a long process, and then you go home. With remote online notarization, you can actually just log into your computer, show up in front of a notary, and sign the documents and be done. So from the standpoint of scheduling and getting there, it's so much easier. If you think about our initial example in rural Iowa, where sometimes it is hard to find a notary, this is more inclusive to those folks who can just be home and sign their mortgage document. If you are elderly and have a hard time going to a branch location, or if you are disabled, it's a much more inclusive process. And oh, by the way, it's much, much more secure too, because there's a video of the recording and a number of different factors other than just an ID card, which can validate you are who you say you are. So that's something that we've thought about, and one small piece of the larger puzzle that we're trying to drive home, but something we were really excited about in a local story that I thought I'd bring up. And it also gives me a chance to show this awesome picture. This is when the governor signed the bill into law, and those 3 little girls are my daughter. So we were so involved that on the signing day, we got to go in and sign the bill, and my kid sat on the governor's lap. So we're really excited that this happened. And again, it's a good illustration of the types of progress that we're trying to make in the lending process to make it go smoothly and more easily. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like. For those of you that understand or have worked with notaries, you can see on the bottom left that the notary stamp is there, the signatures are there. We've identified the person, and we can move forward with the transaction. So just a really cool piece of tech that has changed the lending process. And interestingly for us, we had been hoping that we'd be able to get people to adopt to remote online notarization. And that all shifted very, very quickly. And now it was, oh man, are we going to have enough bandwidth to onboard all of the clients that we have who want this technology? So it's interesting. We think that remote online notarization is here to stay, and is the way that in the future we'll all be signing mortgage documents. Hey, that's me. I should have said at the start, my name is Ben Rempe. I am the COO of LenderClose. I've been with LenderClose since February of 2018. Prior to that, I worked for a company called TMG Financial Services, which was in the credit card industry. But really, my entire career has been in sales and sales management, always working with different types of loan products. So I started in mortgage lending, moved into commercial lending, and then at the end with TMG Financial Services was more in the credit card lending space. And over the years, I've realized that at my core, I am a lender, which is a silly thing to put on paper. But for me, what that means is when I think about my career in lending, not every deal worked out perfect, but there is no better feeling than helping a person buy a car so that they can go to work. And there's nothing like seeing the smile on a person's face when you refinance their mortgage and help them get on a plan that they can be debt-free and retired at 55. Or there's nothing quite like making a loan to a business to allow them to expand, to hire, or become even better than they were in the past. That's why I'm a lender, helping people achieve their dreams. There's no better job than that. And when you're a lender, that's what you do every day. And I'm really happy that at LenderClose, what we do is empower lenders to serve their borrowers, to make loans, and help people achieve their dreams. Sales philosophies. I have a lot of them, and if sometime you want to sit down over a cup of coffee or a beer, I'd be happy to talk for 3 hours about the different things that I believe in. But here are 3 that are important to me as I think about how we've really grown and shaped LenderClose over the last 2 years. My philosophies work for LenderClose. What's important on these slides is that not that you just take what I have and try to institute it into your company, but more that you have a better understanding of what it means to have a philosophy and use that as your guiding principle as you shape and guide your organization. Not all of the philosophies that I have will work for you. However, some of them may, but what's most important is that you come up with 3 or 4 or 5 things that are your guiding principles, so that when it's time to make a decision or it's time to think about how are we going to shape the future, you know exactly where you're heading. So this is who we are. These are a few of mine. Sales philosophy number 1. This really goes back to when Omar and I first got started with LenderClose. We were sitting in a small office at Gravitate in West Des Moines and talking about the future. We had a product that we had sold to a few credit unions, and we thought that we could sell to a lot. And our vision was, the company is not worth anything if we can't sell it. We had a great product, and we still have a great product. But even if it's the best idea, if you can't distribute it and sell it and get people to use it, it's not worth anything. And it makes me think back when I was a kid. My dad worked for IBM, and we had an IBM personal computer, and loaded onto the IBM personal computer were WordPerfect and Lotus 1-2-3. So when I would do my homework at home, I'd type up in WordPerfect, save it on a disk, go into school, put it into the computer, and it wouldn't be able to read it because everything on the school PCs were all Microsoft products. Now, if you ask my dad, still to this day, he'll tell you that WordPerfect and Lotus 1-2-3 are the superior spreadsheet and word processing document compared to Word and Excel. I disagree because I got used to Excel and Word. However, he doesn't believe that. But the point is, Bill Gates got his software put in every single PC that was produced that wasn't an IBM PC. And that became the spreadsheet and word processor because he got the distribution. That's what we mean when we say if you can't sell and you can't sell your product, it's not worth anything. So we have to be great at it. And even though we're a fintech, we look at ourselves as a sales organization, and that's a huge guiding philosophy that we have. Second philosophy that we came up with was build a culture. And there are a lot of ways that you can build a sales team, guys. For us, we decided we wanted to have an inside sales team. We wanted to have a collaborative culture. We wanted to be able to train people in the moment. We wanted to be able to have an ad hoc meeting and talk about overcoming objections. So that's how we built our team, was an inside sales focus. And when we came up with that, we then moved to the idea of, resume doesn't matter. What mattered the most to us was it helped if you had some sales experience. It helped if you had some financial services experience. But if we didn't feel great energy from you, and if you didn't have a positive attitude, and if we couldn't discover through the interview process that you had a growth mindset, then we wouldn't hire you. We valued energy, attitude, and growth mindset above everything else, because I knew that if I had a team of people who showed up with great energy, had positive attitudes, and were willing to learn and conquer new ground, that I could teach that team and I could work with that team and we could achieve great things. So building a culture, it was important at the start, and even today, it's a huge part of what we think about as we continue to grow LenderClose. Sales philosophy number 3, and the final one that I'll share with you today. I think at some point I may have pulled this from like a junior high textbook, a science textbook, and it's just the scientific method of ongoing process. I use this in a lot of different areas of just life in general, whether it's fitness programs or things at work, or how to help my kids learn things, learn school better. That probably wasn't worded correctly, but I hope you get the gist of it. But the idea of just following this process over and over and over, coming up with ideas and theories, and then being okay with them being wrong, refining the data, asking new questions, and never being satisfied, it is a huge philosophy that I have. And it's really manifested itself into what we feel like are the core of our sales, which is knowing our landscape, being present, monitoring people's activities, learning, and then coaching behaviors. We'll dive more into this a little bit further down the road when we get into tools. But those things, our process, it has been vital to our success, and it's what gives us a path to the future that we think we can continue to grow and achieve. Shifting to remote sales. So clearly the last 9 weeks have been just absolutely crazy. We've always done business outbound. So we do our prospecting with outbound phone calls. We do our demos on webinar. We do our contract negotiation over the phone. We do our onboarding via webinar. It's not until we get into the relationship management process do we actually go visit people on site. So the idea of selling remotely wasn't new over the last 9 weeks, but what is new is the way that we come together as a team. Because we can't come together in the office, we've had to find new ways to do that. And so there's these new problems and things that have popped up. So we'll discuss this here in a little bit more detail. But first of all, a timeline. the takeaway here, I think, is as you're looking at your teams, or if you're building a new team, we were really lucky. As the conversation about the coronavirus continued to ramp up in the beginning, I went to our managers and I asked, hey, what will it take for us to go fully work from home? And the answer was pretty simple. They all said, well, we'd have our team close their laptop, go home and open their laptop and start working again. We don't have servers in our office. We don't have phones in our office. Our phones are tied to our computers. And so it was pretty easy for us to be able to say, okay, we can move remote if we need to. On March 6th, we had a board meeting and we said, hey, we're ready to go work from home if we have to. We probably won't until a large employer decides to do it, because it doesn't seem like it's in Iowa yet. So we'll just keep watching. By March 10th, things were moving quickly. We were in Raleigh, North Carolina with Omar and our SVP of sales, Alan Jinkst. And we thought, this is moving pretty quickly. There's no reason for us to be in the office. Let's make the call that on Friday we'll all, go work from home. The next morning, I typed up a memo, distributed it to our leadership team, and we left to go to the airport. And the airport in Raleigh, I'd never been left from that airport before, and it was pretty quiet, and I didn't know if that was normal or what. Boarded the plane, landed in O'Hare, and it was a ghost town. And the three of us looked at each other and we said, okay, we're making the call right now. So at 1 o'clock in O'Hare Airport, I opened my laptop, copy and pasted the memo, sent it off to the team. We got on the phone, made sure everybody knew what was going on and how we were going to move forward. And that the next Thursday, we were fully remote, work from home. The best story about this to me was that 2 weeks after we had sent everybody home, one of our clients called and said, hey, I need your disaster recovery program, and when are you guys planning to implement it? And it was great because we got to say, oh, we're already implemented it, and you didn't even know? Awesome. That means that we've been doing a good job. So for us, we haven't really missed a beat. Some things have changed. Some things have not changed. I had a chief of staff there. You can see her sitting with me. She only lasted for about an hour before she decided she needed to go on to her other stuff. But we've been working hard with Zoom happy hours, and I put my high school football jersey and memed myself one morning to the team. Just different things to try to keep everybody engaged and active in what we have going on. And some things have changed. We missed the face-to-face interaction, and I think I really discounted how much information got traded at the water cooler. So now we're having to utilize Slack to force those types of conversations. It's not as easy and personal and natural, but we're still trying to do it. We also would have, a Monday all hands on deck meeting. We really don't do that anymore. We've broken it up into smaller groups, and I'm sure all of you have noticed with Zoom meetings too that if you have more than 6 people, it's really hard to have a conversation. So with larger groups, it's facilitator led. And if you want to have a conversation, it's really no more than groups of 6. So we are trying to meet in smaller groups to have that exchange of communication that maybe normally happens on the water cooler or bumping into people in the hallways. Other things have not changed. And guys, my philosophies have not changed. We still have to sell. We still have to be intentional about our culture. Every day I worry about people's energy levels and their attitudes and are they being fulfilled in what they're growing and learning on. We're intentional about that culture, and that has not changed. Our process has also not changed. We still have room for activities, and we're doing so many more things because we're not having to be in the office. So we've seen a little spike in productivity, which has been kind of great. I don't think it's sustainable, but for a short term, we've been able to still focus in on the things that we know make us successful. And even in the frame of this pandemic, we've been able to continue to do the things that we need to do to serve our clients. And our clients are banks and credit unions. They're essential services. People's financial needs are very important. And so therefore, we're open too. Okay, tools. I broke the tools out into acquisition and account management. So you'll see here, we do take 2 very different approaches when it comes to new accounts and current accounts. And if you think about what drives our revenue, it's an order. And I can get more orders from adding more clients, or I can get more orders by getting my current clients to engage with me more deeply, or I can do both. And so we're doing both, and they're both equally important. When I say, you're going to see here, guys, and this is why it's a little bit of a challenge, I obsess about process, numbers, activities. So I'm really passionate about that, and I'm going to try hard not to dive too deeply into the weeds and try to just give an overview, and maybe we can save some drill down for questions. So if you'll remember our philosophy, know the landscape, be present, monitor activities, learn, and coach behaviors. So the picture there is from a trade show that we attended right before the pandemic happened. And trade shows are a great example of knowing your landscape and being present. I'm always shocked, by the way, at how many people go to a trade show and just stay in the back. Our team doesn't do that. When we go, we have a plan. When we go and sit in on breakout sessions and listen to the keynote speakers. And boy, just sitting in a few breakout sessions really shapes your mindset as to what is everybody here talking about and why. And the people who go to trade shows and don't do that, they just are missing out on a tremendous, tremendous amount of information and opportunity to learn. So that picture right there is a good example of knowing your landscape and being present. We track our activities through our phone system. Our phone system records every inbound and outbound phone calls. If I want to go in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and see how many calls our reps have made, I can do that. You know, it's just visibility. If everybody's doing our job, then it's just being visible in reporting. And it's important to know exactly what's going on when it comes to the front end activities that fill up our pipeline. The end sale is the most important, but you don't get there without putting in the work. Pipedrive is the account management tool that we utilize. We at the start dabbled with Salesforce. We dabbled a little bit with HubSpot. You know, there's a lot of great CRMs out there. We chose Pipedrive because it was really easy to open the box, drop in my database, and just go. It's got a really nice user front end that helps us stay in control of what's moving through the funnel. And it gives me a chance to see, where are we stuck? Why are we stuck? What can we do to move things forward? So that's been a great tool for us to help us move things through the sales process. And hand in hand with that is a company called Gong. Gong records all of our webinars, and then I don't know how it works, but they use voice recognition to say, here's how much you talked versus how much the other person talked. Here's when you talked about pricing. This is where they asked questions. These are the questions that you asked. So from a coaching perspective, it makes it really easy to go in and help our reps understand where they did a good job, where they had room for improvement. And it allows us to coach those behaviors and help them get better at what they're doing. So now I'm going to transition into account management. Account management is a little bit softer, and we've been doing relationship management. We hired our first relationship manager almost 1.5 years ago. And it was funny, as that team came on board and started doing visits to our clients with Omar and me, one of them at one point said, you know, our tagline for relationship managers should be hugs, not handshakes. And we kind of laughed about that, but you know, even though we're not doing hugs or handshakes right now with the pandemic, it's kind of true. We want our clients to feel like we make their jobs easy, that they can't imagine a world without LenderClose. And we want to get to know them on such a great level that, you know, we're helping each other achieve goals. We're helping each other move forward in our careers and our lives, and we care about them, not just professionally, but personally too. And it's funny, when that happens, you tend to get hugs from people because you respect and appreciate each other. So our little tips on getting to hugs, not handshakes, starts with making friends. So the day a new account rep starts, call everybody, all your clients, figure out who your counterpart is, figure out what motivates them, what drives them, and where you can help them. And after you've discovered where you can help them, do something for them and make sure that it adds value. And do something again. Be that person that they can count on to deliver when they need you. And then after a while, ask them to do something for you, because they will. And once you've reached that point where you do things for them and they do things for you, well, you've got a mutually beneficial relationship that will never, ever go away. So that's our 3-step process for account management. The thing that we track to make sure we're doing a great job of this, it's ARR. For software companies, they look at something called churn rate. We're not a software company, but our revenue looks like it. So I thought, well, let me see how our churn rate looks if we were to come up with a dummy model of it. So we do track the same month, year over year. Lending is seasonal, so you really have to track the month. But I tracked 123 credit partners from March of 2019, and that made up 100% of our revenue. Those same 123 clients, not including any of the new ones that we added, they did 161% of the revenue year over year. So same clients ordered 61% more than they did the year before. We had one client who left, and interestingly enough, last April, they came back. And so my last little tidbit for account management for us has been, we talk to our clients about striving for perfection, but don't judge us on being perfect. This one credit union was judging us on being perfect for a product that is perfect maybe 95% of the time. So they left. They tried 2 other title companies, came back and said, hey, they're not as accurate as you guys were. And when it came down to needing to talk to somebody, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So they came back. So this right there tells me that we're on the right track. I think we've got a lot of room to grow, but we're headed in the right direction. Now, that was pretty soft. More quantitatively, there's over 40 metrics that I look at in terms of how are we doing, but it's things like revenue per client, products per order, orders per day, revenue per order. These are all things that a relationship manager can impact, and it allows them to say, okay, if I want to increase my products per client, how am I going to do this? They can make a plan, they can have a way to go about it, and they can go after strategically each client to help them grow and help us grow at the same time. So those are the tools we use for account management. Again, really quick, hopefully pretty high level. If you have questions, I'm happy to drill down here at the end. Oh, I forgot. We do utilize Microsoft Power BI. This has been something pretty recent over the last couple of months, but essentially I don't have to manually track data anymore. Now it just shows up in dashboards, and man, we're learning things about our clients and our vendors that we never knew in the past, and it's been extremely valuable. So as you're growing, you'll reach a point where it makes sense to have a person who can really get into these numbers and help you understand your clients better. So from a learning perspective, Power BI or a business intelligence software platform can really help you understand things that you never did in the past. Okay, super Sendoff. So we're at 35 minutes about right now. So we'll have plenty of time for questions. Guys, go do it now. No excuses. Right now, no tomorrow. That's the mindset that we utilize at LenderClose. And right now, no tomorrow, by the way, is a tagline from Crystal Pepsi from the 80s. And by the way, that's still a hilarious advertisement from the 80s. So if you want a minute YouTube thing, funny and kind of inspiring, surprisingly. So right now, no tomorrow, you can do it. And so if you take nothing else away, just take away that all great sales teams, they have great urgency. It's right now. Don't wait for a month. Do it now. Why can't we go now? Great sales teams are great collaborators. They work together. They talk. They discuss objections that came up. They work together to get the job done. So all great sales teams have great collaborators. Great sales teams are process oriented. You can wing it for a little while, and you can wing it and still maybe land a whale or two. But if you want to have lasting long-term results, you have to have a process, and your team has to work the process. The process can change and the process can adapt over time, but you have to have a process to stay focused on to have long-term success. Great sales teams have outstanding coaches. If you're not a great coach and you know that about yourself, go hire somebody who is. You have to be able to have somebody who can coach somebody up to help make them better, to, you know, expand where they are today to make them something more in the future. So you have to have outstanding coaches. And then lastly, guys, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. If you want to have a great sales organization, you can do it. You can be remote, you can be inside, you can have some crazy hybrid of all of the above. But if you have urgency and you collaborate and you're process oriented and you coach and learn and get better every day, there's no reason why you can't be successful. So now we're at the end. Thanks for sitting through the webinar, the seminar. I accept Venmo. I don't, but that is my my Twitter handle. It's mostly been used recently to advertise this meeting, so it's pretty inactive. I'm much more active on LinkedIn. If we haven't connected there yet, please connect with me. I love meeting other sales professionals or industry folks in the area, seeing what we have, what's going on out there, and I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn. And then lastly, I just want to say that I'm on the foundation board, so I guess this is a little commercial for Orchard Place, but Orchard Place is the largest mental health services provider for kids in central Iowa. You know, right now is a time where people I think are aware of mental health much more so than they have been in the past. And even over the last few years, I think people are more accepting of the idea of mental health and how important it is in our society. So Orchard Place is the largest provider of central Iowa. They're leading the way and they need your help. So if you did take any value from today, if you feel like you've got some good takeaways, please go to orchardplace.org/donation and consider giving what you can, $10, $20, you know, whatever, every little bit helps right now. And I think that, you know, a big part of who we are at LenderClose, yeah, we focus on LenderClose, yeah, we grow ourselves and our team, but we also believe in the community, and we try to support and help each other as much as possible. And this is just one way that I try to give back. So I'd ask you to consider joining me with that too. So with that, I am done with the slides. It looks like we've got some good questions. And Mike, if you'd like to jump in too, feel free. Let's see, open the chat. Okay, we've got a question from Pat. Talk more about recording your calls and how that works with your CRM. Great question, Pat. So the CRM, Pipedrive, and Gong, they are two separate pieces. So we do have to log into each one. But the way that they really work together is, as we look at each demo that happens, we're able to log into Gong and then sit down with the account rep and go through where we went on the call. So, you know, with every demo, sometimes you have a great demo and it moves forward, and sometimes you don't really have a great demo and it doesn't go anywhere. And in both instances, you're able to go in and see maybe where you didn't ask a great question to discover what their goals and their needs were. You didn't set firm next steps to move forward. There are other little things that you look for in that to try to help the rep learn and do better the next time. And I think it's, you know, for us, it's so important, and it's hard, it's difficult. And I know for me, it's hard. I'll go back and listen to this webinar and it will be hard for me to listen to myself. It's hard to listen to ourselves, but it's amazing. Every time I listen to a sales call or re-listen to a webinar, I come up with ways that I could have done better, or that I could have, I could have asked better questions or been a better representative of the organization. So that really is how it works for us. It's two separate systems with two separate logins, but they're both very, very important for us to be able to keep our deals moving forward. Let's see, dig deeper in how we use Pipedrive. That's a tough one. I think mainly the way we use Pipedrive is it houses all of our contacts and connections. So we've got about 100,000 names and addresses of people who are executives at every bank and credit union across the country. We've got different contact information, and we can utilize, we log our calls, we know who we're calling and why, we come up with different campaigns that we can utilize. If we make a call and we schedule a demo, that moves into a funnel. And then you're able to move a deal throughout a funnel. For us, it's pretty simple. Demo's been completed, we've sent pricing, we've had a follow-up call, it's a hot deal, we've sent contracts, it's a signed account, and then at the end we hit 1 if we win it. But it gives you a nice visualization of, are we filling up deals on the front side of the pipeline? Are we moving them across the funnel? And are we winning or losing? So that's the way we utilize Pipedrive without diving in too micro or opening it up. But again, with any CRM, you're really just looking at a way to manage the leads that you have, come up with strategies to contact people, identify opportunities and when they move into a sales funnel, and then help you process deals as they move through the funnel and ultimately either to a win or a loss deal. Okay, those were the 2 questions in the chat. Any other questions?
Ben, I'm going to read one to you that came in, and it came straight to me. So
Oh,
I
sure.
think it was intended to go to you, but it says, question. It sounds like LenderClose sales process, sales philosophies, and sales methodology hasn't changed since moving to a remote team model. There have been some meetings that have moved remote or been refactored internally, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to selling, what has changed for LenderClose? Example, has the value prop for LenderClose changed? Has how you reach out to prospects changed? Are you putting a heavier emphasis on certain prospect segments over others?
That's a great question, and I'm going to answer it 2 different ways. One, some things have not changed in our philosophies. So we still have been calling our prospects, and we still have been talking about our key drivers of speed, efficiency, and member experience. And I don't think that will change. Now, that's the starting point. I think we definitely have been trying to, especially early in the pandemic, shifting more to how can we help versus what are we selling, and talking more about we are already transforming financial institutions into a digital environment, and the spotlight is on this now. How are you moving in that direction, and can we show you how we can help? So that would be the biggest thing. I mean, certainly it's a different world, and even more now, it's gone back to a little bit more normal as people are getting used to working remote, and they have their plans and processes already up and in place. And we're still always talking about speed, efficiency, and borrower experience. But the way that we go about it has been more of a knowledgeable partner, as opposed to, let me show you how we can help change your process and help you move into a digital future. But the core of who we are, the philosophy, the energy, the growing every day, learning activities, those things haven't changed. We've just had to find new ways to make sure we're keeping everybody aligned and moving forward in the same direction. I also think we're really lucky that our team is super engaged, and Alan is great at making sure that everybody knows where we're going, they understand the future, and they feel aligned with where the company is and how we can really help our prospects and our clients.
All right, I don't see a whole lot of other questions here, Ben.
Okay. Well, Mike, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about LenderClose and our sales philosophy and what's changed over the last several weeks. Hopefully it was beneficial for everybody out there. And thanks to everyone for joining the call.
Yeah, Ben, I appreciate you joining the call. I really do. I mean, as someone who also has done sales, it's interesting that relationship. I mean, people kind of get tired of hearing it, but it is about relationship and about keeping relationships. And I think that one of the things I'll add to the end here is I'm hearing from many people that it's actually easier to get a hold of people right now because they're not traveling as much. They're present at their computer and their phone. And to be honest, a lot of us are, sequestered with our family or just ourselves and our spouses, and we're looking for somebody to talk to. So I'd add one further piece of encouragement to those still on the call, and that is that people tend to want to talk right now. So it's a good time to make those calls. All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for attending. We'll make this available online later in the week, and we'll send out to you all a link to that. And I think Ben's agreed to provide his slides. And so we will also include a link to those slides. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining the call and wish everybody a wonderful Monday. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike. Take care, everyone.